And my therapist keeps telling me to be positive, you know? She keeps talking about the law of attraction. If you think about something enough, it will happen. And I see now that there's a camera, and now I'm getting nervous. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And she tells me it's actually going to happen. And I think that's a little bit superstitious, because in Brazil we do things differently, right? If you really want something, here's what you do. You go out, you buy like a little statue of a Catholic saint, okay? You shove it upside down inside of a glass of water, and you put that in the freezer. And it stays there until your wish comes true. And it actually works. But the whole thinking positively thing, I don't really go for it. But my therapist is actually really good at what she does. She has published a number of magazines. Her name's Oprah. Maybe you've heard of her. Yeah, she's totally in a positive thing. And I don't know how I feel about it, but you know, if it worked for Sarah Palin, it can work for me, obviously. And it was right around that time, like when Sarah Palin was beginning to, you know, be known, and you know, when she was, you know, saying things like, "I can see Russia from my house," and all that.
She didn't actually say that.
It was right around that time that I came to the U.S. And my dad came up with me because he wanted to see where I was going to live. You know, it's not every day that, you know, you send your kid to another country and you're like, okay, you're 15, go live your life. So he came up with me, and we decided that we were going to take a road trip together. And by we, I mean him, of course. And we drove up to the East Coast, all the way from like New York up to Maine. And there was one point that we were really hungry and we really needed to pee, and we stopped at this little town. It's called Provincetown. It's around Cape Cod, you know, it's really cute, touristy town. And when we got there, I immediately realized that it was actually a gay town. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. They're almost like gay resorts, you know, it's like gay men migrate there over the summer so they can tan and stuff. I didn't see many lesbians, but I'm told they go there over the winter.
That's awesome.
So we're walking down the street, and I'm just really excited about the situation, right? And my dad is absolutely oblivious, you know? And so we decided we want to go to a restaurant. We get to the restaurant, we're waiting to be seated, and my dad turns to me and he says, "You know, son, I read that this is the best restaurant in town. I read it online. 2 things you need to know about my dad. First, he loves saying that he knows things he doesn't actually know about. He's the kind of guy that would raise his hand in an anatomy class and say, "I totally know what it's like to get my period." Second, he likes to say things and words that make him seem really young and kind of like really hip. You know, he loves to say online, of course. Snapchat is totally a thing for him. Twilight, also, is totally a thing for him. Women's studies. So never took that class. So the hostess finally arrives, and of course the hostess is a drag queen, and she takes us to our table. We sit down. I don't remember exactly what he ordered. I do know that I had fish and chips, and that's because I like British men. And so the food arrives, and we're eating. And there's this thing that my dad and I kind of like used to do at the time, and I think it's very representative of our relationship. We used to just like sit in silence all the time. It wasn't really that kind of comfortable silence that you have with like long-term friends or anything like that. It's that kind of silence that, you know, kind of like dawns on you when you're like laying next to somebody you just had sex with and you don't remember their name. Okay, now I'm thinking about this, and it's not really a good metaphor for my relationship with my dad. Okay. So we're just sitting in silence, you know, there's a beautiful view of the beach, so he's staring at the sun and how it reflects on the beautiful sand and everything. I'm doing the same thing, I'm staring at the sun and looking how it reflects in the six-pack of this guy who's hanging out by the beach. We have our food, we live, we're walking, we leave, we're walking. Do you see my Brazilianness coming out right now? We leave, we're walking down the street. My dad turns to me and he says, "You know, son, I read online, and there's this place here where you can rent bikes. I don't say anything, but you know, of course you have. We just walked by it. So we go back and we rent our bikes. And I don't really remember what the color of my bike was, but his was pink. Just obviously just adds to the irony of the whole situation. So there he is with his pink bike and me too. And we had an early lunch, so now it was like around lunchtime, and it was just impossible to walk in the street, you know? And I'm like, whoa, now we rented the bikes, we're not actually gonna be able to ride them, and I really wanted to ride something that day. I knew you guys were gonna like that one, I knew it.
Nailed it. Oh God.
But to my surprise, as we leave the bike rental place, you know, all these beautiful gods just start kind of like parting ways so we can, you know, leave. And I'm just like, I was just so overwhelmed. I'm like, it's like their ocean and I'm their gay Moses or something. Miracles. So we go riding on our bikes, you know. We actually went for a long time. We probably were doing it for 45 minutes or something. And by doing it, I mean, you know, riding the bikes. Wow. Freudian slip. All right. And my nose starts bleeding at one point. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there are some people out there who are kind of afraid of blood. And I'm one of those people. And of course, I'm 15 years old, you know, as this story is happening. And I'm very afraid of blood. And I'm not really somebody at that point to think very analytically. So it's not like I was like, oh, the weather's really dry, so my nose is bleeding. No. That's not what I'm thinking about. I'm like, oh shit, my nose is bleeding. I'm gonna die. There's something wrong with my brain. Oh my god, oh my god. So I just throw the bicycle on the floor, and I just lay there. At this point, I'm just like, okay, gravity's gonna do its thing, and I'm not gonna die. And I'm just yelling, I'm like, Dad! Dad, I'm dying. Oh my god, where are you? And then I look up, and there he is, leaning right over me, taking a fucking photograph. So here's a lesson. Don't do anything stupid in front of relatives who are 50 years old or more, because they still carry like disposable cameras. And what did he do? And actually today, in fact, he has a wall at the apartment in Brazil where he lives with my stepmom. Thank you. Whatever. And he has a wall dedicated to that, and that particular picture of me is right in the middle, you know, at eye level, so everybody can see it. And the few times I've been home and people have come over to visit, they always look at that picture and they start laughing and they're like, wow, Gus, you fell from your bike, you were 15, that's pretty fucking hilarious. And I never really tell them the truth. Because I think there's something very special about that one kind of like little moment, you know, that one little photograph that really kind of represents this whole really maddening day. And so I don't tell anybody because I really do feel like if I do, it's going to be less special. It's going to be less precious. But here's a little piece of wisdom. When you have memories like that, and when you have things like that that are important and they're strong to you, as long as you share them with people who you might not have known for a long time, but who have become important to you, they're not going to be worth any less. They might just even be more and more precious. Thank you.
Didn't expect that. Oh, the hands are up. Okay, all right. We'll let's see. We'll go. All right. Okay, we'll go. Oh my God. Okay, all right. We'll go this row, that row, this row, that row. Okay. Okay, this row.
Which direction?
Yeah, this row. You all have your hands up, all three of you.
What?
So Brittany.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. I think your performance was just so amazing, and you're just super awesome. And I remember when we first were reading our stories the first time, you just were still like in that unsure, like where to go, and that was like a really intense like